Thank you for joining us as part of Florida Climate Week. We want to give a special thanks to the VOLO organization for inviting us to participate and for bringing us together to address climate change. My name is Lisa Reineman, your St. Johns Riverkeeper, and I'm joined with Gabrielle Milch, our St. Johns River Middle Basin Coordinator. The St. Johns River is 310 miles long. It's the longest river in the state of Florida and divided into three basins, the upper, middle, and lower basins. I live in Jacksonville, which is located in the lower St. Johns River due to the fact that the river flows north.
Hello, and my name is Gabrielle Milch, and I live and work in the Middle Basin near Seminole County by Lake Monroe, Lake Jessup, the Wekiva, and the Econolakahatchee rivers, which are all waterways that make up a portion of the St. Johns River watershed. Climate change, pollution, and rising waters are undermining the health of our St. Johns River, impacting our community and our economy. We all depend upon clean water. It is critical that we all do our part now to tackle the rising waterways and the future of Florida. As Florida recovers from Hurricane Ian, we continue to monitor the flood waters throughout the watershed as its high volumes of rainfall pulse through the rivers and surge, it's stacking the tide further inland. As a result, frequent flooding increases stormwater runoff, flushing more pollutants and sewage into our waterways, threatening our health and our quality of life, as well as our economy. More pollution in our waterways increases harmful algal blooms and bacteria pollution, and that can be highly toxic to humans and pets, which is a threat to our health. As you can see right here, this is more than 300 times the recreational limit.
Rising sea levels are making storm surge events worse, causing more septic tanks to fail, undermining infrastructure, pushing salt water further upstream, and threatening the health of our river and our communities. Our waterways are Florida's greatest natural asset, but our waters also present a growing threat if we don't take action now. Florida must increase our resilience to extreme weather events while addressing climatic changes that continue to intensify the threats facing our waterways and our communities. Fortunately, we can and must act now to invest in strategies that will address the causes of climate change while making our community and our river more resilient.
The goals for today's presentation are to increase the awareness to the threats of the St. Johns River and the increasing vulnerabilities of our river and the communities throughout its watershed. And we'd also are going to identify some opportunities to increase the resilience of our rivers and our communities and how we can all tackle climate change together. Florida's longest river, it begins the 310-mile long journey in a vast marsh west of Vero Beach and flows north in Indian River County. From there, the river flows almost imperceptibly north, dropping by elevation by less than 30 feet from its headwaters to its mouth in Mayport. Our river is referred to as one of the laziest rivers in the world. As a result, the St. Johns River doesn't flush efficiently, and as a result, pollutants can remain in our waters for several months.
Freshwater swamps and forested wetlands provide important wildlife habitat, biofiltration, flood and erosion control, and carbon sequestration. Unfortunately, our swamps and wetlands are continuously threat of overdevelopment. We must protect these areas to protect our river. St. Johns River is also known as the River of Lakes. Due to its very low slope in elevation, when the St. Johns River can swell into a lake, she does so, like this photo of Lake George, which is the second largest lake in the state of Florida. The fact that the river's watershed is so flat also makes communities along its banks more vulnerable to flooding, and that risk is increasing. Looking at 2020 flood levels, 6% of the river's census tracts were considered high risk to flooding. When you look at the St. Johns River 2050 flood projection, 13% of the census tracts are at risk of flooding. This flood risk is not limited to the lower basin, but also impacts areas in the upper and middle basins as well.
The St. Johns River is also a spring-fed river, but overuse of our aquifer is reducing freshwater flows to the river from its over 100 springs. As the Floridan aquifer is overtapped, the Florida springs lose their freshwater flow. This loss of flow undermines the health of the St. Johns River and damages wetlands and further degrades the river's watershed.
Saltwater intrusion continues to threaten the health of the St. Johns River in the lower basin due to overuse of our aquifer, sea level rise, and dredging and straightening the St. Johns River. We're seeing significant further intrusion upstream. In Central Florida, plans have been drawn to rely heavily on surface water withdrawals from the St. Johns River instead of more cost-effective conservation strategies. When you remove fresh water from the St. Johns River in the central part of Florida, that fresh water is replaced with salt water, further increasing the damage of saltwater intrusion. Since 1928, sea level rise has risen by almost 11 inches at the mouth of the St. Johns River based on data from the Mayport, Florida tide gauge. Sea level rise could rise as much as 6.27 feet by the end of this century. If you break out the data over shorter intervals, we're also seeing that not only is sea level increasing, the rate of rise is also accelerating. The deepening and dredging and straightening of the St. Johns is just making matters worse. For more than 100 years, we've deepened, we've straightened, we've taken out sandbars to create a superhighway for larger cargo ships into the St. Johns River. As you remove these natural features that once protected our estuary and lower basin from saltwater in the Atlantic Ocean, you see that not only are flood levels and water levels rising, but also the deepening and streamlining the river has nearly doubled the tide range around Jacksonville, pushing that saltwater wedge further inland and upriver. This saltwater intrusion damages important water features, river features, including wetlands and submerged grasses and submerged trees. These are important features of the St. Johns River because they provide significant ecological benefits. Once we lose these grasses, we lose the foundation of our seafood industry and the loss of important habitat with the eelgrass and submerged grasses. Those grasses also provide critical biofiltration. They're the kidneys of the St. Johns River. And so once we lose that filtration, our river has a harder challenge of filtering out the pollution that's going in. And we have to focus on, as we see more floodwaters and more rain events, you have more pollution coming from our agricultural lands, as well as more runoff from areas where we're unfortunately seeing high levels of sewage sludge being permitted on lands adjacent to the St. Johns River that increases the risk of harmful pollution runoff. In addition to saltwater intrusion coming from all these sources, after Hurricane Irma, we saw significant loss of submerged grasses due to high water levels and a high degree of water pulsing through the system. And sadly, those grasses have not recovered since Irma, and now we're waiting to see what the impacts will be after Hurricane Ian. Because with the loss of eelgrass, that makes our St. Johns River estuary less productive, as well as potentially at risk of collapse. And that's where we come in.
And the mission of the local environmental nonprofit, which services 18 counties, is that we serve as the voice for the river. Our mission is to defend the St. Johns River and advocate for its protection. We are also affiliates to the Waterkeepers Alliance, which is a global network of grassroots leaders protecting everyone's right to clean water. We hold polluters accountable for our current and largest and fastest growing nonprofit solely focused on water. We preserve and protect water by connecting local water keepers, organizations, and affiliates worldwide. Our goal is drinkable and fishable and swimmable waters everywhere.
In the St. Johns River watershed, we accomplish our work through education, not only working with adults, but also working with the future stewards of our environment. We work through outreach, creating activities and fun events for all of us to connect better with the St. Johns River, its springs and its tributaries, but also for us to give back through cleanups and other restoration events. We have a river patrol that helps us get eyes out on the St. Johns River, and a Rising Tides organization that helps, gives an opportunity for young professionals to get involved. We also have a Headwaters Advisory Council in Brevard and Indian River and Osceola counties to help give us a voice in the upper basin of the St. Johns River. We have a legal committee that's been working with us for nearly 2 decades to make sure that we're utilizing the Clean Water Act and other laws to protect our river, its springs, and tributaries. And then we work with local and statewide coalitions by working with the other water keepers throughout the state of Florida, as well as core organizations that are promoting restoration and protection of the health of the river. We can do more working together.
One of our priorities is to stop pollution at its source. We want to reduce our energy consumption, conserve water, and plant river-friendly yards are easy ways and steps that we can take every day to reduce the harm to our river. We have to take individual responsibility to reduce our pollution footprint, but also work together to hold our government and polluters accountable by using data, science, and citizens advocacy with the law. The next following slides are a few programs folks in Florida, Central Florida, can learn more about climate change and how it's impacting our built environment. The Central Florida Resiliency Collaborative is an 8-county region whose mission is to empower communities in East Central Florida to advance resiliency strategies that strengthen and protect the built infrastructure and our natural environment. We enhance health and equity and ensure a thriving economy. You can check out more at www.perilofflood.net/resources. Also, the University of Florida IFAS Extension has an educational program offered to some counties, and they actually have some sustainability agents working in communities to and work with elected officials. The mission of the Sustainable Floridians Guide is on how to take individual responsibility for protecting Earth's limited resources. Through a discussion to action format, this program educates participants throughout about making wise decisions about our resources and making household and communities more resilient and financially sound. Green infrastructure, also known as low impact development, is gaining popularity, and it's a different way to treat the stormwater runoff and by using rain gardens, grass swales, living shorelines, and a nature-based flooding solutions. Conservation and wise use of water is very important in the St. Johns River Basin, as well as throughout the state and throughout the world. There are great programs for household and irrigation efficiencies. One such program has been adopted by the state, which is a voluntary program called the Water Star program. and it was developed by the St. Johns River Water Management District, and it provides new developments to be constructed with up to 60% landscape irrigation reduction and also a 30% reduction within households. And it's sad, but we've used about 50% of our clean drinking water just to grow lawns in Central Florida.
We must also work together to ensure that our city and state leaders are taking aggressive steps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the impacts of a warming planet. This includes investing in green infrastructure, implementing resilience policies, replacing coal electric generation with renewable energy, and protecting the forests, wetlands, and salt marshes that sequester carbon and protect our communities from flooding and storm surge. That's why in the lower St. Johns River Basin in Jacksonville, we have joined the Sierra Club of Northeast Florida in Renew Jax, working together to get Jacksonville and our local utility JEA to commit to 30% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% renewable energy by 2050. And our biggest priority to help increase the resilience and offset sea level rise impacts of the St. Johns River is reuniting the natural connection of the Ocklawaha, Silver Springs, and St. Johns Rivers. Silver Springs is the largest freshwater spring that provides naturally flowing fresh water to the St. Johns that helps offset the saltwater intrusion we're seeing throughout its estuary. Unfortunately, the natural flow from Silver Springs and the Ocklawaha was severed as part of the failed Cross Florida Barge Canal. Before this project was stopped, the Rodman Dam, also known as the Kirkpatrick Dam, basically put a tourniquet on freshwater flow in the largest tributary to the St. Johns, the Ocklawaha River. This also severed the natural flow impulses from Silver Springs, the largest freshwater spring. If this dam is breached and the natural flow of the Ocklawaha is restored, that will give the St. Johns River estuary a fighting chance by improving water quality, habitat, and its fisheries. The breach and the partial restoration of this river will restore more than 150 million gallons of fresh water to the St. Johns River every single day. It provides clearer, cooler water, which will help support and restore the decimated eelgrass in the St. Johns and restore the biofiltration and habitat that the grasses provide, improving water quality, preventing blue-green algae, and support more productive and commercial recreational fisheries. It'll help Silver Springs be restored and increase the ability for the springs to look like they once did. It will also recover the lost springs of the Ocklawaha, which are 20 springs that are currently submerged underneath the weight of the pool behind the dam. And this will help increase coastal and inland resiliency by reducing saltwater intrusion, providing more flood protection, and it also helps avoid dam safety risks that this obsolete dam is currently creating in the lower St. Johns River in Putnam County. And as a bonus, this will increase the fisheries. It will actually restore lost migratory patterns and biological flow of our fisheries, many that once migrated up through the Ocklawaha to spawn, including American shad, American eel, and Atlantic sturgeon, and others. This WASP project will also provide a permanent natural lifeline to manatees at a time of crisis by increasing manatee habitat and restoring the grasses in the St. Johns River. It also allows manatees to get to Silver Springs and the other springs of the Ocklawaha during the wintertime when they need warm water habitat. The economic picture of a restored waterway and reuniting these ecosystems is also quite bright. It's anticipated a 28% increase in visitation, an $8.1 million economic output, as well as a 7.6 annual return on investment based on studies done by the University of Florida. And focusing on making sure that we're embracing the value of water and reimagining what the dam could look like providing more recreational opportunities, as well as a destination point for families and visitors to come out and see the natural Ocklawaha River and its floodplain being restored. And so that is many reasons why the Great Florida Riverway and reuniting Silver Springs, the Ocklawaha, and the St. Johns is one of our #1 priorities for the St. Johns River.
River friendly is earth friendly. It's also sometimes called Florida friendly as well for your yards. Visit our website at stjohnsriverkeeper.org.
Protecting our natural environment, including land, waterways, wetlands, springs, and aquifer and swamps, is the most cost-effective way to protect Florida from the threat of climate change. Combined with shifting to renewable energy, we can sustain all we love about Florida for future generations. Please visit us at stjohnsriverkeeper.org to join our efforts and to learn more on how you can help. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for joining us as part of Florida Climate Week.
Thank you.